Welcome to another insightful episode of TransformHer, where audacity sparks and barriers crumble. On this show, we aim to equip African women with tangible resources and practical insights for leadership, whether on your journey to the C-suite or in entrepreneurial ventures. Together, we will usher in a new era of inclusive leadership that is bound to drive profound growth and prosperity across the African continent. I'm Ifeoma Williams, your transformative guide on this journey. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back. Today, our episode is Beyond the Glass Ceiling, and we are honored to have no other than the estimable person of Mrs. Bode Abifarin. Bode was a successful management consultant for over 15 years with one of the big four. Then she became the COO of Flutterwave. Wow. Bode, right now she's going to tell you what it is she's doing to transform lives of women across the continent and globally, because it's what Bode can do. Bode, you are most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm even happier because it's like it became flesh, right?
It did. Bode is telling you how we spoke about it, and she was one of my champions. So wherever you are, give Bode a round of applause. It's important that we do so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for believing in this journey.
Yes.
And this is one of the reasons we have you here today. Bode, you were at one of the big four, KPMG, for 15 years at least. Then you went on to be Chief Operating Officer of Flutterwave. You know, I want you to tell us about this journey. Tell us how you transitioned from one to the other, and then dwell on the fintech space.
My journey has been interesting, and I can say uninteresting at the same time. So, you know, KPMG is multidisciplinary, so I joined KPMG right after school. When you come into KPMG, you get to do everything. So I remember my first project, I always use this example, even when I'm coaching, new people that are just entering the workplace. So everybody was put on very nice jobs and all of that. It was this time when MTN was planting base stations, right? And they wanted, KPMG to come and help because people were stealing parts and everything. So they said we should come, help oversee that. So they put me in one of those base stations in Abuja. So that was how I started my career. For me, it was a bit weird because you can imagine I just bought my suits, bought everything. They now said, well, they go and look, after the store. And my work was just simply ensuring that when the engineers come, I'm giving them the correct, amount of materials. We do an audit at the end of the month. So I just kept complaining, right, to one of my friends in the firm. And I remember somebody more senior was like, but they enjoy where you are and learn everything that you need to learn at that point, and no knowledge is wasted. So I was like, instead of me to be complaining, I started asking about processes. When I'm free, I'll start drawing the process for. So I just sort of transformed the way they even come in to collect things from the store. So by the time I was on my second project, it was more like a process documentation project, and it now had to do with process documentation for something similar to what I had done, like a finance operations transformation. So that was where my career sort of started, right? So I was there in KPMG. I started doing strategy. So I was in strategy, working on financial services institution. So all the banks, especially the top tier banks, right? I was helping them to define their 3-year plans, their 5-year plans, how to do retail banking, how to do corporate banking. And then towards the end of my career, I don't know if you remember when we had about 80-something banks, right? And the minimum capital was changed. So all the banks had to recapitalize. So that, caused some form of combination with the banks. So that was an opportunity. And we just thought to ourselves, so banks went from about 80-something to about 25 banks then. Wow. And then we just thought in the firm that since nobody has to be afraid that, one bank will crash because they didn't have enough capital, the basis that banks will win will be on the basis of service. So we started this customer banking industry satisfaction survey. And then, after some time, I remember, I joined it maybe in his 3rd year or 4th year or so. And then that was how I started working on customer, because there's one thing, whatever data you hear from the customer is all the things that you will need behind. The customer, when you listen to the customer, you have enough data to say, this is what we want. It affects products, it affects process, it affects strategy. So we now had this database of information that we were using, right, to advise banks. So everything just sort of fitted together, customer advisory strategy. So I was there, I became associate director. I did my master's at Imperial. I love small businesses, so I always volunteered at Faith Foundation. So if there was anything that had to do with small business, I volunteered in church. My church had a capital business school. I joined them. I used to train in the church. I've always loved teaching. In fact, in secondary school, one of my friends nicknamed me Oyenkuzi, meaning teacher, as in because every opportunity, I always wanted to teach. I felt when I'm teaching, I become deeper, I become better myself, and I have the gift of breaking complex things down. So after that time, right, it just came as a call, that one of the calls that, oh, Bode, one of my friends just has a new business, they need advice, and that was how the call was from the founders, right, of Flutterwave then. And, you know, it was just like a simple conversation, oh, help us look at our structure, help us look at our strategy. That was in 2017, and then it became like every weekend, we're looking at this, we're looking at that. Weekends rolled into weekends, let's do it this way, helping them to pull together those first documentation in terms of the strategy, how do you want to play, just pulling everything together for them. I think for me, one thing that really sealed the deal was the way the founder was able to describe the problem. I love challenges, right? So I just thought to myself, you know how you've been telling the banks that this is the future, Internet of Things, payment, you know, so we used to bring our partners in KPMG from Brazil, people that had gone ahead and had done similar things. So we were painting that picture for them. So by the time I spoke to him, it was the way he was able to, I could feel and touch this problem, and I saw what I had been saying for many years. I know the way people will be like, oh, consultants, you just come, eat our food, drink our tea. So I had this inner yearning to say, how do I also get my hands dirty and do some sort of implementation? So it sort of spoke to me when he started describing that today, if you look at Africa, payments is fragmented. If you go to more developed countries, you know, it's more uniform, right? So if you have M-Pesa, if you have cash, if you have whatever form of payment it is, right? The problem they were solving was building an infrastructure such that it doesn't matter what payment form, right? Once you get on the platform, you can pay. You know, once you go digital, you have access to markets. It doesn't matter where your customers are. Then there was an issue on the payment platform, right? The whole system went down. And, you know, I saw an engineer writing new codes. They were like, they will fix it. By the next day, you know, payment was happening. They were like, but it test. So for me, that was the beauty of engineering, meaning that you can solve it come alive. Yes. So I saw it come alive right before me. And I was like, wow, I need to, you know, be a part of this. So that was like the final kicker that brought it.
So on this show, what I like to do is interject with your takeouts. Ladies, Bode spoke about when she joined KPMG and she bought all these suits and all of that, and she was taken to a base station. But she said a conversation with someone where the person said, enjoy where you are. And that's the first point I want to make today. Be present in whatever it is you are doing. What she did in that place was to change things. She said one of the reasons why she was sold on Flutterwave was the fact that she saw the clear solution. She saw the clear solution that the founders were bringing to bear. Takes me to my next point. There was a clear vision. I implore you ladies as entrepreneurs in your entrepreneurship ventures, or even as leaders of teams, paint a clear vision. So it takes me to my next question. In these male-dominated fields that you have been in, Bode, show us your battle scars. There are many. Tell us the challenges that you faced in your career journey, whether it's in management consulting, but more so in fintech, because it's male-dominated. What are the challenges that you faced, and how did you surmount these challenges?
All right, so I think for me, right, the first thing was the way consulting is, you always have like a performance manager. So the concept of mentorship was very laid from the first stage of when you enter the firm. So I had the concept because you were required to speak with your performance manager. That's the person that will present you at evaluation meetings. So I had mentors. I had about 3 mentors at KPMG for different things. I had a mentor for personal, family, right?
Oh, wow.
When, as I was getting ready to get married, there was somebody that I really used to look up to. I asked if I could be if she could mentor me in that, so we could talk about different things, and it was very helpful. Now I had a mentor for career progression, and then I had a mentor for other things when the kids came. So I always chose my mentors in terms of, okay, what am I dealing with and where do I need help? Now, when it was time for me to leave, things were still, fintech was just really coming up. It was late 2018, so people didn't even really know the name at that point, and it was more like, oh, maybe she'll go and then she'll come back, but I just felt like, let me be a part of this, right, and go and solve issues. When you have a consulting background, it builds resilience, it builds problem solving, and then if you are good, because of the way the thing is set up, you are good, right? Because when they are doing evaluation, it's not just your manager, it's other people, right, that have worked with you before. It's everybody will chip in. Oh, maybe when she worked with me, it wasn't like that. And then people can provide context. Oh, maybe she wasn't feeling well, or maybe she was, so depending on what it was. So we were coached, and I don't want to use the word raised, but the way the career progression went in terms of you can do any and everything. And people that had gone ahead of me, that had left consulting to be COO somewhere else, right?
Okay.
So I remember speaking with Titi, speaking with Linda, quite a number of my friends. So I went to their office, but it was their battle scars, and what they were sharing with me was really in maybe manufacturing. They were doing everything, food and services, but I didn't really find somebody in fintech, unlike the way it is now, where there are hubs. If you tell me I know 2 or 3 people I can point to, because I now know other people in the industry. So with that sort of my raised shoulder and everything, I said, let me just go make my impact. I know people say fintech is male dominated. So one of the things that I use, right, and has always been like one of the things that helped me was my problem solving. People don't like when you come in as a very senior person, if you cannot solve problems, immediately people come to you and they say there's a problem, and you wear your problem solving hat. If a bank was down, there was an issue. I'd worked with a lot of banks before. I could pick up the phone. I was opening doors. I was solving issues. When we have issues, we're documenting this is the process. Just those early things that we started pulling together, right? So I think that was one of the first ways I tried to settle in, right? Also, I don't know if this is more like also a combination of looking back and looking forward. So if I say I look back, another thing was, you mentioned it, having this open mind as well. So, I came from, you have to resume at 8. And then you get into tech and you find out that, why are you not in the office? And they're telling me we pushed codes overnight, right? So that flexibility of knowing that not everybody will get to the office at 8. Some engineers will be out asking questions and all of that. I worked with a very humble boss as well, BC Ebon, and the thing is, there was no raised shoulder or whatever. That humility is one of the things that's also helping. Like, even if I can ask you for, how do you do this? If I'm not sure of anything, you ask the questions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hold the thoughts. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. We're still speaking to Lady Bode Abifarin. She's a wealth of knowledge. Before we went on break, she was speaking about how her mindset, her attitude was how she overcame what I would call a battle scar, a challenge in joining fintech, was the fact that cultures were different, but she quickly settled in because she had the mindset of problem solving. And There was something very distinct I picked in what she was saying. She spoke about how when there were issues, for instance, with banks, because it's a payment platform, right? So when they had issues with banks, because of her past relationships with the banks as a management consultant, she could make phone calls. Ladies, that is the power of nurturing your network. So you had the opportunity and privilege to be in an organization like KPMG where mentorship is sort of intentional and structured. But it is crucial for growth for entrepreneurs. How would you advise an entrepreneur on the outside to, foster these sort of mentorship relationships? Let's start from, do you pick your mentors?
Okay, thanks. So one of the things that is now happening is in the ecosystem, that's the fintech ecosystem, there are now hubs, there are now accelerators where young startups can be a part of. Yes. Another thing I learned very quickly is you can't just sit in your office and think mentorship and networking will happen. There are a lot of I've had lunch and dinner with quite a number of COOs now, some of them younger, a lot of them younger than me anyway. But we meet and I'm like, wow, if I had met with them 2 years ago, it would have been a different story where we're sharing our battle scars and we're finding out that it's same of same, right? And we're able to, talk over lunch, talk over dinner and, share experiences. Oh, how did you do it and how did you do that? I also want to say that when there are networking opportunities that are announced, and we're using fintech as an example, even in your field, it could be manufacturing, it could be oil and gas, it could be, you have to, if you're really very intentional, you have to find a way to be a part of these things, right? Go have even if you're, I want to be on my bed, go there for an hour, pick up the cards, make calls, make connections. At the beginning of 2022 and 2022, I said I was going to mentor 5 businesses. I'll do 3 female, 2 male. So I did that. This year, I said I will increase it to 7 because you also have to be realistic where, this time I did 5 females, 2 males. And the people that really take and suck the juice of the mentorship are the ones that are intentional. They'll book the meetings ahead of time. They come with specific issues and problems because they recognize that, it's an unpaid thing, right? Once, if I say it's 2 o'clock, they are there on 2, they do reminders, they show appreciation for what you're saying, they show results, they send weekly reports depending on the area. Those are the people. So even when I started out at 7, maybe only 3 or 4 of them are really as active and have really gained, from the knowledge and all. So mentorship is actually like a very active thing that you have to take as a project and have defined goals, right, with the mentor. I also participated in the WinBiz mentorship. I had a very fantastic mentor this year. I wanted to do it last year because I'm always like, okay. But I was like, one of my goals was I was going to have a mentor. And my mentor was Uzo. She did a fantastic job.
Can I ask you, was she a peer mentor or older?
She was older,
right.
So she was older, and she, she wasn't in fintech, but there were a number of things that she shared. And the mentorship cut across different things, from work to children to making decisions, transitioning, different things, and I learned so much, and I was like, wow.
But they said you cannot sit in your office and think that mentorship or networking will happen. The mentors or mentees she had, number one, they were intentional, they were specific, so they knew how to manage time. But what is your plan for impacting female leadership in Africa?
All right, so, in addition to mentoring, there were like 2 or 3 female-led businesses that I invested in personally because I wanted to also have like some skin in the game as well as mentor them for some of the people that I thought they were really doing well. I think one of the things I would just say for female businesses, I talked about the beauty of engineering, but another thing was just the sheer vision and goals that these men have. I had my own targets at KPMG, but when I came in and I just saw we're going to take over the world, we're going global. So a lot of the things that you see today, that Flutterwave has done today, was already like in the vision from when they started. So, you know,
I like it. We're going to take over the world.
So GB had, you know, everything. It was very specific, right? When you talk to some of female, it's just saying the vision can be big, right? And it's beyond the business, right? It should have impact, it should have ethos, and you have to link it to like an overall agenda. Let me give an example. There's a female-led business I just met recently, right? She's packaging, you know, pepper mix, right? And, you know, just speaking to her, I'm just still remembering the conversation yesterday, and it was just beyond that. It was saying world hunger, eradication of, you know, just the vision is big, you know, when she described it and all of that. So it's just staying on that audacious path and saying, how far can I see? How far can I go? And not being afraid. And then just looking through, because I'm great, I'm good, I'm awesome, I'm fantastic, I can achieve all of these things. You now go into the future and then you come back and say, what is the ladder and the staircase I need to go through to this? The truth is that when you come at problems from a problem solving in terms of what challenge am I trying to solve, and what I mean is customers will go for, they are trying to solve a solution, and if your product or your service solves that solution, they'll definitely come to you. So how can I do this very well? How can I be badass at it? What do I need? And what's the conviction I have? Because that conviction and storytelling is what you will sell to people that will come and invest in your business.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you, Bode. Please stay tuned for our next segment, which is our coaching segment. Welcome to this coaching segment of TransformHer, still on effective leadership strategies. Today, we are going to be speaking about active listening. Now, did you know that there's a difference between listening and hearing? To define active listening, it is a communication technique that involves fully concentrating, understanding before responding, but most importantly, remembering what is being said. Whilst hearing is a physiological process, if these two ears can pick up sound and you're not deformed in any way, it's a natural process of receiving sound. Active listening, in contrast, is a deliberate and a conscious act that goes just beyond listening. What are the key components of active listening? The first is concentration. You must focus entirely on the speaker without any distractions. The second is understanding. So you're in a situation where you're having a conversation with somebody and you see the person going like this and saying, I'm listening, I'm hearing you, and they're just nodding. Sometimes they're just acknowledging, right? Or they're just waiting for you to finish speaking so that they can respond with what they've already prepared. So they're not actually listening to what you are saying. Active listening is when you hear what the person is saying, natural, right? You take it in, you comprehend, you process before responding. Providing thoughtful and relevant feedback or acknowledgement, and then retention, retaining what it is the person has said with a view to responding in a manner so that you marry both your opinions, or you might still disagree. But the key point to note here is that in active listening, you take on the sound, the information, you process before you respond. What's the impact of active listening? When you listen to somebody actively, right, and intentionally and consciously, with a view to even giving them a chance to express their own views, you build trust, you enhance communication, and you prevent misunderstandings. Now, let me dwell on misunderstanding. If you have preconceived notions or a misconception and you do not have the accurate comprehension of a message, it will ultimately lead to misunderstanding. So what are tips for practicing active listening? You must maintain eye contact when you're speaking to a person. Don't look at their shoes. Don't be distracted by their hairline or the shape of the size of their heads. It can be distracting. But focus, maintain eye contact. So the person sees that you are interested. And sometimes some people daydream. So you're looking at the person, and instead of maintaining eye contact, you've looked beyond the person, and you're just sort of like, you're not focused in maintaining eye contact with the person. Avoid interruptions. Let the speaker finish what it is they're saying before you butt in or before you jump in. Allow people their time of day. Let them finish their sentences. Reflect and clarify. So when you want to do this, what you do is you can repeat what the person has said. You can say, okay, to understand what it is you said, or if I get you correctly, this is what you have said. Clarify. And this helps better understanding. And then show empathy. Acknowledge feelings. Be responsive, okay? And sometimes we can come across as arrogant or dismissive. When somebody is speaking and you say you're listening actively and you're like this, I'm hearing you, I can hear you. It doesn't show empathy or that you are flowing or actually listening to the person. So what's the key takeaway? Active listening is key to effective leadership, but not just that, to relationships as well. When somebody knows that you are a listener or that you'll give them a listening ear, meaning you actually take in, comprehend before responding, it makes for better leadership and relationships. Until next time, thank you for joining us on this segment. See you soon.